Bess, I want to ask you, what worries you about our national picture?
The picture in general?
Yeah, about politics or about the country. What worries you?
Well, I think our government has become very dysfunctional, and it is failing to address big issues that we need to be making really long-term plans for. And I think we've become so partisan that, particularly, it seems, in Congress, the two sides don't talk anymore. And we need maybe to make more sausage instead of be so ideological.
You mean two issues that would fit into that, those long-term issues that aren't being addressed?
Well, I think climate issues is one, and I think healthcare is one.
Brittany, tell me what worries you?
It worries me that we talk a great deal about economic growth, and we're not really talking about climate change. And I think that's the biggest threat we face. And I think after that, protecting our country. But we do talk a lot about economic growth, and I think what's the point of a growing economy if we're not doing everything we need to do to save our planet?
Steve, what about you? What worries you?
I think the job situation, the fact that we are losing jobs here for our younger generation, the next generation coming up. And I'm worried about the integrity of the election. The fact that perhaps the UN needs to come monitor our election process in order to make it fair. Does that mean that our elections are being administered correctly, or is it more about who can buy what election judge in what precinct in this part or that part of the country? That concerns me, is our integrity as a country.
Patrick, what about you? What worries you?
Endless war. So we've been at war since 2001, and I don't see a horizon for that anytime soon. So.
Charlie?
I think we've had a failure of a substantive civil discourse in this country. I think this election has really showed that maybe the gridlock in the country is actually a reflection of the voters, that we need to have more civic education and a citizenry that's not just watching this as a spectator sport, but realizes that we have a role to play, and that frankly, we need to be able to have that substantive discourse too.
Renee, what about you?
What I said earlier, that I think this is the end of politics as we know it, is I believe that this election is going to lead to such drastic changes in the United States that the current political configuration of our 50 states will not endure the next 50 years. I really think that this is the first crack in what the United States of America is.
Nick, what about you?
A couple things. One, national security. The war is here now, and it's a religious war, and we have to look at it and address it as such and do what we have to do. But the other big thing I see is our election integrity. I just don't think that there's very good safeguards in place. Just look at the last election of Obama, where there was one area or precinct, I believe the voting was 24,700 and whatever change to 0, which is mathematically impossible with the machines. You know, there's going to be errors, there's going to be machine problems, there's going to be other issues like that. But just out of sheer mistakes, that did not happen. That just does not make me trust some of these machines and the system that's used for voting.
Alex, what about you?
Well, this is not so big scale as everyone else, but the youth we're being saddled with a lot of debt, student loan debt, and it's inhibiting our ability to participate in the economic system. Buying houses, our debt-to-income ratios are too high, and it puts us in a bad spot. We can't get out and find jobs. We can't get out and buy houses. We can't start families. We can't keep this country moving forward. We talk about our children being our future. Well, we have no future. There's nothing for us out there, it seems, and it's scary.
Christy?
I agree with Charlie that I think the current election, the current political climate is a reflection of the people. And I worry that as a people we're becoming complacent, that there's not as much motivation to succeed because there's not a lot of hope that we can achieve what the American dream was, say, 50 years ago.
I want to get to hope in a moment, but let's keep the shades down here for a second. Thomas, what worries you?
One thing I would like to build on what Alex and is that the problem with the American dream for millennials and young people is that when you go to college to get a decent job that at one point maybe required a high school degree or not even that, is that you're graduating with $50,000, $70,000, $100,000 in debt, and you will spend the rest of your life paying that off, and there is no way to get out of it. There's no bankruptcy you can claim to get out of it. The American dream for my grandfather's generation was start from nothing and build yourself something. In my generation, it's start with less than nothing and hope that one day you can achieve nothing.
Melissa, what worries you?
I'm concerned definitely about the economy. You know, listening to both candidates speak, they talk about things they want to do, and in my mind, I think, who's going to pay for it? Where are you going to find the money for this? So I'm very concerned about all these programs they want to do, but they have to eliminate something or we go further into debt. And then I'm very concerned about national security, both foreign and domestic terrorism.
Rita?
I'm concerned about the corruption. The whole government seems like a big corrupt universe.
And what for you does that mean? Is there a specific thing where you think this is just a mess?
Well, if you look at the FBI investigation
Of Hillary Clinton's server?
Yes. When you look at that, I mean, what was that? That was nothing. You know, they didn't do nothing, anything. And also, let me tell you what, to me, the fact that nobody's concerned about closing, they don't think that's a big deal, closing the border. If the country's not safe, you're not going to worry about economy or education or anything else, okay? And then I think we should have the strongest military in the world. If it's strong enough, if you do have war, you'll win. But chances are, countries will think twice about attacking you.
Michael, give me what worries you?
It's pretty simple. For me, the influence that money has on politics, and getting rid of Citizens United would only be a first step. It's a necessary step. It would only be a first step. All of the other issues that we're talking about, we can actually do something about them as American people if we can limit the influence of money on politics, period. Democrats and Republicans are bought. If somebody's giving you $200,000 for your campaign and you have to choose between corporate interests, the interest of the military-industrial complex, or the interest of the American people, if those things conflict, you're going to go with the person who's giving you $200,000 for your campaign. That, to me, is clearly the most important issue.
We've heard something about the American dream, but with a show of hands, who thinks the American dream is still alive? It's a little more than half of you. Who among you think it's dying?
Dying or dead?
You mean as in dead?
Well, how about let's go with dying first and then we'll go to dead. So who among you think the American dream is dying? And who among you thinks the American dream is dead?
I thought it was always propaganda and a hoax anyway, so.
Why is the American dream dead?
Propaganda is an excellent way to describe it. There just isn't an American dream. Not because the idea is wrong, but because I've never met anybody that's actually lived it or benefited from coming to America and starting from scratch. And there's always something that keeps a person not able to be as free as they could, supposedly living in a free country.
Who wants to stick up for the American dream? Go ahead, Steve.
I've been fortunate enough to work with and meet many people who have come from Mexico, China, Europe, and they come to the United States, both legally and illegally, to experience our freedom and to get the opportunity to rely on themselves to make a life for themselves. Many have succeeded, some have not. But the fact of the matter is they had the opportunity to make it happen. And this, in my experience, is the best country in the world to do that. Is it fair, right? Does it always work? No. But people are flocking to the United States for that reason.
Go ahead, Nick.
I agree in that because I can tell you from personal experience, my former father-in-law, my ex-wife's father, him and his little brother escaped from communist Hungary. And they were slated to be killed simply because they were farm boys and nonconformists. And he came here and basically in his field built an empire. All he came with was his diploma.
Do you all believe that it's important for the presidential candidates to know what your lives are like? Some of you mentioned it was out.
Yeah.
So Melissa, what should the candidate, whoever wins, what should they know about your life? What would you, if you had a day with them and said, here's what my life is like, to inform them, what would you do in that day?
I don't think either one of them has a clue what it's like to be middle class anymore, which really essentially means that you are almost living paycheck to paycheck. You're very concerned about retirement. Am I going to be able to retire? With the healthcare system that came out several years ago, I think everybody felt the effects of that, especially middle class, because our insurance rates went way up. I would just like them to know, and before they form opinions also about things going on in the world, I think they really need to be better informed.
What kind of choice in the day-to-day would face them if they had to live a middle-class life? Give them a concrete choice about what it's like. Spend money on this, spend money on that.
I mean, for me, I feel as though I do live the American dream. My American dream, I think that's a very subjective term, but I'm very happy in my life. But being middle class, I don't feel like I have it really rough, but I have to put off buying certain things. I have to drive my car until it dies. I'm excited to get a house paid off someday in the future. I would love to redo things in my house, but I don't have the money for it. I don't think they have the same type of struggles. They don't have the same type of concern over where they're going to get money for some of the most simple items.
Renee, jump in here.
Based on your question, what would I have either candidate do in a day of my life? I would like to take them grocery shopping. I would like to have them pump a full tank of gas, and then I would like them to have the experience of going into an ER for, not life-threatening, but an emergency of some kind, like broken bone, strange pains in your stomach or chest or whatever, and just go through that process and see what the average American puts up with when they try to get health care in this country.
Who else has an educational experience they'd like to take the candidates through from their daily lives?
I don't think any of the candidates in a long time that are professional politicians have any idea what the rest of us do. They've been insulated for so long. That's their job, to be a politician. The original writers of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, you were a citizen and you went and served. You did 1 or 2 terms in something, then you came home back to your farm, or whatever you did, but you brought your experience of the people with you to Washington, and you used that to make your decisions. And we're not doing it anymore.
I just want to say one quick thing. I don't think they care. I don't think they care.
You don't think
I
that they
don't
care?
think it would matter one way or the other to them.
What? Give me that
At
full
your
sentence.
life, or how you struggle, or that you don't have money, or whatever.
Do you
I
think
don't-
politicians ever cared about your struggle?
Well, no, I thought we were talking about the two.
I understand. I'm asking a follow-up
Oh,
question.
no, I
Rita.
don't think all politicians are like that. And in fact, I'm an optimist. When you talk about the American dream, I think when you give up your dream, you give up your life. So I would never feel that way. But it's just the two I thought we were talking about.
Sure.
I don't think everybody's like that. And whether it's Republican or Democrat, I think we've got some very good in both. In fact, when I choose a party, I want to know what each one is how it's going to affect the whole country, and if they care.
Steve, you.
Michael and Wita and Melissa have said all the same things that I've been feeling, and it goes back to the money in politics. Are you going to ask Jane Average about how she feels about an issue? Or are you going to go to your $200,000 contributor? Oh, by the way, what Mr. Corporation, do you think about this? By the way, what will help you get me more money in my coffers? I think we have two seasons. We have seasons where the politicians are trolling for votes, like they are right now, and then afterwards they'll go troll for campaign contributions, which is the other 3.5 years.
Charlie, if you had to come up with something to send these candidates, whoever wins, there's a period between the time they win and the time they come into office. So what should they go do during that period to get some understanding of the America that they're going to be president over?
Well, I think that's what they've been doing this whole campaign. That's maybe why we subject these candidates to this, is that they have to go out and they have to talk to American voters all across the country where they get to hear the stories. So maybe more in the primary than the general, I think they've been hearing the stories of the people. It's just, what do they do with that?
Michael, you were going to...
No, I was going to be kind of, well, anyway, I was going to say I'm very happy to hear that Steve is going to vote for Hillary Clinton. Because...
We're bringing people together here.
Bringing people together. I've never heard Donald Trump say anything about putting people on the Supreme Court who will overturn Citizens United. Hillary Clinton, she gets a lot of money from corporations, as did Barack Obama, by the way, as do everybody who runs for president. She has promised to put people on the Supreme Court who will overturn Citizens United. Again, when I look at her record and what she's voted for in the past, that promise and the record, they coincide.
Just to correct Michael, my newfound friend, what Hillary promised to do in her first 30 days in office was to construct a amendment to the Constitution that would preclude, because the Supreme Court has already ruled on Citizens United. So that's different than putting new justices to overturn it.
Thomas.
Well, when I think we're talking about campaign finance, it seems like everyone here is in agreement that we think that the government is corrupt, that we think that money has an undue influence in politics. But I think we put too much emphasis on what the president would do about it. There's a completely different way that's already being enacted to go around the federal government to get a constitutional amendment to get money out of politics. And that goes to local activism through organizations like Wolfpack, and just state by state, you can go out and make a difference. It's not all about the election, and I think it would do America a great good if people would remain politically active after the election and fight for real change at the local level and at their state level.
All right, let's try and turn to some optimism here. Bess, what gives you hope?
Well, so I'm a pediatrician and I work with a lot of kids, and I think the kids today are great. I think they're hardworking. The college kids I interact with and the young people that I interact with are good people. They're thoughtful, they're hardworking. They see the problems because, as the students with the student loans have told us, they're living the problems. Mm-hmm. And I think it gives me a lot of hope to have people coming up who are not having an easy time of it. They're having a tough time, and I think they're going to be engaged.
Hope. Christy, what gives you hope?
I hope that the craziness that we've seen in politics recently inspires change. So I'm hopeful that we can step back and take a look at the bigger picture and ask ourselves what we've been doing.
Nick, what gives you hope?
I hope we could stop this little bickering over little things and get down to some of the real issues, for one. But one thing that's bothered me horribly is, not only the Citizens United thing about the money in politics, but now we're dealing with foreign money in politics. And to me, that's something off the charts and off the page that's a big taboo. That's especially what we're getting from Saudi Arabia. Some of the politicians are getting money from them. And the country that one of the leaders in suppressing women's rights.
Renee, what gives you hope?
Well, if I believe in what I've said so far, that I believe that this is the first crack for America, I think the point of the Bernie Sanders campaign about, we need a political revolution, it's a great idea, but the problem with revolutions is that they involve violence. There's never been a successful revolution that I'm aware of that hasn't had some violent undertones to it. So there's going to be some type of violent change in this country. And in the long run, that could be good. That could be actually a good thing. I mean, we're gonna have to go through some darkness to get there, but I think this country is long overdue for a significant change. All of us here have very strong opinions about America and our country and our politics, and that's why you brought us together. But going back to why I believe the American dream is dead is because every person who's pursued a dream did it as an individual, not as an American. I don't think we've been Americans since World War II. Do you understand what I mean? There has been no collective pride of country. Even though each one of us can say, oh, I'm happy to be American, we don't come together as a people anymore and support our troops, grow victory gardens, recycle. We don't do anything that makes us stronger as a country. We're all individuals pursuing our own lives.
Well, first of all, what gave me hope was Bernie Sanders' campaign. But moving beyond that, let's move on. What gives me hope is all of us across the aisle agreeing with the Citizens United mistake. That's something we can do as America. Again, that's something that can jumpstart this American dream. Get one person, one vote, money isn't opinion. Money isn't freedom of speech.
Patrick, we're in a library, so let's imagine we're here 20 years from now and there's a book about 2016. How does this story end?
To be continued, really.
Is it a hopeful
with the
story, or is
election,
it where is it shelved? Is it in the horror stories, or is it in the bright,
I
uplifting,
think
take
there's
it
a
on
lot
vacation?
of there's a lot of awful things that have come out of this election. It may have, and those awful things may have made this country face truths it didn't want to face. But I think ultimately that we face those truths is a good thing, and hopefully in the next 20 years we'll confront them and overcome them.
Weta, you had a pretty dire view
Well,
on Armageddon and all that.
let me tell you, I was afraid to come because my kids warned me the trouble I'd be in if I said what I really thought. But what I want to say is what gives me hope is what a lot of people laugh and make fun of you. What gives me hope is God's in control. And another thing that gives me great hope is I listen to many Christian programs, and all over the nation, they're praying for our nation. And I believe God answers prayer.
Michael, how does the story end? 20 years from now, looking back, is it a hopeful story, or is this election the beginning of something darker? How does it end?
I don't know. One of the things that has given me hope is the Bernie Sanders campaign and the fact that a lot of younger people are getting involved in politics, and hopefully will continue to pay attention to this. I know we're talking about hope. I'm going to go to the dark side again for a moment. From my perspective, when a politician says something like, the Mexicans who come to this country are rapists, the black community, they're all killing each other. I grew up in an inner city black community, and there was violence, but we used to play in the street and have fun and, go to churches and all that sort of stuff. I, quite frankly, and people would disagree with this, I think Donald Trump is a racist, and I don't budge at all when I say that. For me, the hopeful thing would be if he loses in historic proportions.
All right, we're going to head to the exit here. So just a couple more questions. You're in a car, you're at the side of the road, your car has broken down. Who do you want to drive by, Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump? Let's Hillary Clinton first. That's 3 hands, 4 hands, 5 hands. Donald Trump. Melissa, why do you want Donald Trump to stop and not Hillary Clinton?
Well, he clearly likes women. So I think he'd feel bad for a woman who needed help. I mean, obviously I would help myself, but you've given me a question where I had to choose. I think that he would be a little bit more giving with as far as paying for a tow truck, or I don't think he would know how to change a tire or even how to pop a hood of a car. But I think that he'd be a little bit more giving with money to help you on your way.
What do you think, Steve?
Well, I think Donald Trump as well, and I think because I think he would see the opportunity more than he's being altruistic. Hillary would be buried in her emails and hurrying to her next appointment and her next campaign rally, whatever that would be for campaign fund raising.
All right, so you've got a new neighbor moving into your house, moving next door to you. Who here would like to have Hillary Clinton as their neighbor? Brittany, one. Patrick? You have to choose between two. You can only have two neighbors. It's a very weird gated community.
Everywhere Trump goes, he drives down the property values. So,
So who would like to have Hillary Clinton as their neighbor? Okay, so a pretty good number of you. And who would like to have Donald Trump as their neighbor? All right, Alex, why would you like to have Hillary Clinton as your neighbor?
She just seems more friendly.
Michael, why would you like Donald Trump? You're a Bernie Sanders supporter. Why would you like Donald Trump as your neighbor?
I would want to have the opportunity to talk with him. I'm very opinionated. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's not a racist. I want the opportunity to talk with him and get to know him as a person.
Do you think Donald Trump would want the same opportunity of you?
No, I don't.